have two fucking planets and you can squash one instantaneously, then I would say squash the one with life on it.
Right, it's suffering based. If somebody is totally put out of their misery, then that's not objective.
Well, of course it's suffering based. I've made it quite explicit that I believe that suffering is the only real value, that the capacity for something to be harmed is the only value in the universe.
Well, can it be purely on biological terms the fact that human beings, even in the worst and ugliest of situations, fucking starving children in Africa,
yeah, well, human beings will...
What the fuck is that noise?
You gotta turn your mic off. Turn your fucking mic off.
We don't have to keep reproducing like we are. We have to fix the planet. We can't feed all the people we have right now.
Can't fix the planet, though. The planet is internally and catastrophically broken. Life is broken. Okay? It's consumption and reproduction. It produces nothing but unsatisfiable need. Okay, we can never perfect it, so we should just say fuck it, because it's a zero-sum game. Okay, it creates need. It creates a mess, and then it cleans up half the mess. So all it can possibly do is leave mess behind.
Yeah, if there were a few billion more if there were a few billion more people like us in the world, maybe we could do something about it. Maybe we could work together.
The point is that the end game would still be the same end game. All right, what are you going to create another biological organism that needs, and then you're going to say no, there's no reason to do it. So the only thing to work towards is that ultimate conclusion of blowing the thing to shit. Okay, nuke it from space.
Yeah,
Let's
we can create a lot of...
Well, whatever. I'm just saying you're still talking about what we can do, and I'm saying we won't do either one of these things anyway. Okay, right now we're talking about the philosophical conclusion. The absolute end of the philosophy is, yes, life is crap. Okay, you can't make it fly. It's a pig. It will not fly. It's a fucking pig. The end. All right, that's a philosophical argument. The pragmatic reality is people aren't going to accept being a pig. They're going to keep trying to make it fly. So I will agree with you. Let's make a ramp and let's try to make the pig fly as best we can. Let's artificially create the sensation or the look of flight. It'll be fake, but let's pretend. So yes, I'm all for this limitation thing. But the bottom line is life is crap, right? Life, the pinnacle of life as a mechanism is a fucking crocodile.
Sometimes people actually feel suffering in a kind of Dostoevskian way. If we remember the Underground Man, who, if we remove these things, and Schopenhauer posed the question, you know, it would never befall us to ask the reason for our existence in the absence of suffering. People continue to affirm what could be called the fundamental goodness of the...
One shitty ass microphone.
Making it, so it just isn't going to work. But anyway, the argument, the argument is an argument about this contrast between your satisfied addiction, your pleasure, your satisfaction, and the significance of the harm or suffering that's endured. So these are the two things people are putting on the scale. My argument is that the suffering has real weight, okay? Because number one, it wasn't necessary. It's a product of the life game being played, and there's nothing to compensate for it. You can't undo a suffering. You can't just, you know, push it under the rug with something. You can't remove its existence. So all you can do is find something of greater weight to compensate for it. And the only thing on the other side of the scale is this satisfaction thing, which is completely illusionary. It's completely a matter of perception. It's a matter of a satisfied addiction, an attraction force. Okay? The suffering is not created by an attraction or repulsion force. It's a reality. The desire, the satisfaction, the sense of value, the perception of value is something built into the little scurvy organism that keeps it wiggling through the humus. All right? That's a motivating force. All right? The other is a real thing that exists, and you can't compensate for the real suffering with this silly motivation force. I mean, if you add up all the real moments of satisfaction, what you're going to find is most of them are made out of a satisfied deprivation. First, you have to make an organism miserable before you can make it fucking happy.
So are you
right in the middle of that?
To continue to live, is that right? It's not really a matter of choice, of existential decision.
This is in our will to perpetuate the game. And so as long as you're going to keep embracing this silly game, this stupid life, death, life, death, life, death, life, death bullshit, like it somehow is accomplishing something, and it's not accomplishing anything.
Wait, Gary, new angle. Okay, so the thing is, like you just said, you have to make an organism miserable to make it happy, right? But that's how you can justify the misery and get a positive value out of it, because it's like, you know, you shouldn't be able to make a refrigerator where some space gets cold. You know, a cold space is supposed to get warmed by the area around it, but you can trick it with physics. And it's like that with suffering. I mean, you can have a half pound of suffering and get a pound of pleasure out of overcoming it and having pleasure on top of it that is contradictory to that suffering. You know what I mean? That's how you can kind of game the system of suffering, and the brain's kind of built that way. So you can kind of game it in a positive way, and it is all bullshit, but it's meaningful for us. And so if you game the system that way, and if we got more pleasure out of it than suffering, and the suffering served the purpose of getting the pleasure, then how is that not a pretty decent system?
Again, I got more heroin out of it. Okay, you're just saying, okay, I got more heroin, and so that makes up for the fact that I robbed my mother to pay for it, and I abused my kids, and I molested my wife, or well, the other way around.
No, because the mathematics there doesn't
because
work out.
I can rationalize it because I got my fucking heroin. You're just a little animal in a fucking cage, okay, running your little fucking wheel, and you keep thinking there's something you're going to catch. You're finally going to catch some ultimate satisfaction, and you won't catch it. You'll catch little moments where somebody will pull the nail halfway out of your eye, and you'll say, ah, that felt good. You pulled the nail halfway out of my eye. But you're never going to get the nail all the way out of your eye.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you, but, you know, I paid attention to your argument over the years, so I am familiar with where you're going with some of these things. But give me some credit, because I do agree we have to eradicate the idea that my half pound of misery is somebody else's misery. You know, basically you're allowed to give yourself misery with your decisions like climb Mount Everest and lose a toe. You're allowed to do that. You're not allowed necessarily to do any sort of thing. There's a mathematics to the exchange, and that's what I'd like to focus on.
Bullshit, Pyro. That's like saying, okay, if a retarded guy is bashing himself in the head with a hammer, oh, it's okay, because the retarded guy somehow has some rationalization that's making that make sense to the retarded guy. No, you put a helmet on his head, you say, you know, we're going to stop you from bashing your own brains out. All right, and so there's lots of people making completely irrational decisions, Pyro, because they have insane obsessions, okay? So they'll compromise the welfare of their kids to buy a Lamborghini. There's no way you can rationalize around it. It's completely fucktarded and idiotic. The priorities are completely misguided and inefficient. The expenditure is waste and nonsense, and it is bullshit, and it should be called what it is, fucking bullshit. Any asshole wasting his time climbing Mount Everest is that, a fucking asshole. He doesn't have a right to freeze himself to death. He doesn't have a right to force us to give a fuck, to spend money, go try to rescue the dumbass. He doesn't have a right to do any of that shit because it's fucktarded and stupid.
Totally agree with that about being rescued, but okay, it was just meant as a metaphor, but you know, fine. Then somebody that, you know, lives on rice and beans for 5